Okay, let's get started. Hello, welcome to the March study session. Let's begin with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, call the meeting to order at 7:06. All right, we have an audacious study session planned for you. So let's jump in. We're going to start with Mr. Justin Bencherry. He's our auditor. He's going to provide the board and the public with a brief overview of the 23-24 audit. Mr. Bencherry.
All right, thank you. You should all have a summary sheet in front of you, I believe, front and back sheet. Basically, we're going to go over the 6/30/2024 audit. The full audit is about 94 pages this year, so we're going to go over kind of some of the highlights and some of the big numbers for the year end. So to start with, we would issue an unmodified opinion for the independent auditor's report. What that means is the financial statements present fairly in all material respects with their basis of accounting. The highest opinion that we can give, also known as a clean opinion, that is the opinion that you, the school district, and its board members are looking to receive as a part of the audit. Moving to the balance sheet, we're going to start with fund balance for the general fund. There are 4 categories of fund balance for this year. We have non-spendable fund balance of $260,000. That is basically your prepaid expenditures for the following year. There are committed funds of $5.2 million. They're committed for future capital expenditures and future retirement expenditures. And then we have assigned funds, about 3.5. Those are assigned for future capital and also future unanticipated costs that might arise that we're not budgeted for. And then you have with an unassigned fund balance of $1.8 million. Gets you just below that 8% threshold the state kind of likes school districts of your size kind of stay at right there. School also has a capital projects fund. At year end, there was committed fund balances in that fund of $4.9 million. Moving to the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for the general fund. Total revenues about $27.9 million. Total expenditures $25.8. I think too a total change in fund balance for the year about $2.1 million. Looking to how we arrived at that 2.1. In the back of those statements, there's about 7 pages that goes in detail the budget versus the actual. In total, though, you can see your revenues were over budget about $2.1 million. 3 very large categories that hit that. Interest earnings, the rate was exceptional during the 23-24 school year, so that was a very large chunk. Earned income tax, kind of same thing with that. You had to budget that line item very conservatively. As the rates were doing better, more individuals were making better money in the area, and that comes into the EIT monies there. And then the state revenues. When the budget was passed, the proposed, the budget per the state was not finalized when you guys passed your budget yet because the state was late passing that budget. So once again, have to be conservative on that, those line items as well. Looking to expenditures, expenditures were under budget, about $30,000. You can see there, that's a very, very, very small percentage. So that's one of the big areas that we look at when we come in. When the budget was being passed, number 1, was it a realistic budget? And number 2, was it the administration properly following that budget? So you can see there, being that close, that tells us a couple things. Obviously, it is a realistic budget, but also the administration is really following along to follow that budget that was passed. So that's really good there. Moving to the capital projects fund, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for that fund. Total revenues about $180,000. That's all interest earnings. Your total expenditures about $2 million. The majority of that was kind of the final phase out of the construction that was started in 22-23. So a decrease in that fund of about $1.8 million. If we move to the back, the school also has a food service fund. Big items I'd like to point out here in the food service fund. The overall goal of the food service fund is to get this close to 0, so no loss, no income in that fund. You can see it at year end, 6/30/24, about a $12,000 profit. So that fund is functioning exactly as it should be. Going to the footnotes, we'll hit upon some of the larger dollar number amounts, obviously the largest being the net pension liability. So your net pension liability at year end, $30.1 million. I always like to point out your overall proportionate share to the total PZERS liability, however, is 0.06%. So it's a very, very small percentage of the total PZERS liability. The other big item here is this is not a function of debt or a note that you can pay down with additional funds. The school is making all their contractually required contributions in line with the plan documents. So the school is doing everything that they possibly can to fund that plan. It's just basically an actuarially determined number, but that can't pay that number down. Moving to the long-term debt, your general obligation bonds outstanding about $20.8 million. And during the year we retired, paid down principal about $945,000. And then there is a note outstanding. That liability at year end is $20,000, and $20,000 was paid on the note during the year as well. As we have over the past couple of years, the school did expend over $750,000 in federal expenditures. Therefore, we were required to complete a single audit. You can see your total federal expenditures during the year were $942,000. As a result of that, we did require a single audit. The major program that we tested in the current year was your special education cluster, your IDEA funds. As a part of our testing, we had no findings, no compliance issues, and no internal control issues as a part of that single audit as well. So a big thank you to Sheila, Dr. English, all the staff and administration side. Really like coming out and working with them. They're very quick to get us the information that we ask for and work really well with us, and we really appreciate that. It makes our lives a lot easier, and hope it makes their lives easier. But it is a pleasure. So just a very quick and brief overview. Happy to go into any certain areas you guys want me to in more depth, or if there's any questions that maybe we didn't cover, be happy to do that as well.
Board, any questions for Mr. Vencheri? The audit is clean.
Nice and clean.
Mr. Vencheri.
Yes, exactly.
Very thorough.
Any other questions or discussion there?
Work, Sheila.
That works, Sheila.
Maybe turn that volume up just a touch.
John, turn the
Wasn't
volume
you.
up. Antonio taught me how to do this. Antonio taught me how to do this. Okay, is that better?
What about me?
I said you taught me how to turn up the volume on the
On the owl.
meeting. I know how to do it.
Oh, yes. There we go.
Yes, I'm learning. I'm getting better as I go. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Really
Have a
appreciate
good
it,
night.
Justin. Okay, next we have our part 3 of our master planning presentation. This is where we will engage in additional discussions about the various options, both with the board and hopefully the community. We will have time for community input here and have discussion regarding multiple paths moving forward. I'm going to get this up and running for you. Hopefully, bear with me. Let's try it. I think I might have to move forward with the slides. You might have to just tell me this. I don't think you can press it up there. Let's just make sure everyone shows this. Okay. Okay. Board members virtually, can you see this? Give me a thumbs up
Yes.
if you could see this. And when I move the slides forward. Sometimes. Okay, board members, I can't see you, but can you see the slides move?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. All right. Press that. You want me to press it for you? You're good. All right. You might have to speak up because I think
I will
there's the
check.
microphone here, Bob.
Can everybody
In the
online
middle?
hear me?
He's on the job site.
The mic's in the middle.
In the middle. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to project.
Okay. Okay, this is a little bit of a rehearsal from what we did just before the end of the year in presentation on the facilities master planning process. This first slide just generally talks about the topics and the process that the district has been going through in doing a master plan for facilities. Group 1, identify master planning goals and objectives. I'll share a little bit about that. Analyzing the enrollment numbers for today and also into the future. Looking at the potential of making modifications to our grade groupings within the buildings. Taking a look at the existing conditions of the facilities. And then moving into option creation and ultimately costing options. So the district's goals and objectives, identify 21st century learning environments and improvement areas, improve quality and long-term maintainability of the facilities, add efficiency and reduce operational costs where possible, address community educational facility and staffing needs, and review future facility options. So the first section is enrollment. Everybody that's here knows that we have 3 schools. This is a layout of the district, and it explains about how many kids we had at the end of last fall. 445 roughly in the junior senior high, over at 10th Street School 393, and over at the Verner School 158 students. And so those numbers you'll see repeated throughout the presentation. Just a little conversation about the past here in Riverview. So this is the last 20 years. You'll see at the bottom your current grade grouping enrollments at 10th Verner and the 712, and then overall. Overall, for the last 20 years, we've been shrinking less than 2% a year on average. So it is not a lot that you see in 10 years time, but it has just been a slow march from overall. There are some years where it might maintain or maybe even be a little bit higher, but overall, that's about the process that we've been going through here in the district. There's a graph showing you those touch points. Again, those are just based on actual enrollments. In the fall, we were at 1,001 students. Department of Education does projections. They monitor the existing enrollments, and they do a 10-year projection. They have a formula that is mostly based on live births in your community. And so from that point of view, I added a yellow line there. Anything after the yellow line, those students have not been born in the district yet. So Department of Education's projections are relatively trustworthy in the first 5 years of the projection. But once you get after that 5 years, they tend to be not quite as accurate. And that's partially because of in-migration, out-migration, things like that, that they're not fully understanding what's going on, boots on the ground here in the community. Other communities maybe have new housing developments and things like that. Department of Ed doesn't see that those new housing developments are coming or happening. They can only reflect on data. But if you just look at the first 5 years, you can see we're still in that same mode of just under 2% decrease over time. And so at the 5-year mark, they're saying that we're going to be down 36 students from where we are in the 24-25 school year, which is the first mark here. This projection, I just updated it. They just posted them from September of last fall. So the district has spent over the last 8 to 10 years quite a bit of money and time and effort in maintaining and modernizing the buildings. That was something they've done 2 bond issues. They've been through all 3 buildings and the sites with those buildings, doing upgrades, replacing mechanical units, fixing things that are broken, door hardware. The list is quite long. They've accomplished a lot. To that end, the buildings have very little left to do in our current, as you stand today, time period of life cycle with things like mechanical equipment and so forth. We have a few things that are left from the master planning list that are yet to do. Burner window replacement will be coming sometime in the next 5 years maybe. We are in the middle of trying to accomplish kitchen renovations at the junior senior high school. And then we know that there needs to be an upgrade at the junior senior high administration and entrance area. We have parking challenges during events at all 3 facilities. That's really, I don't think there's an easy way to solve that. We have neighborhood schools, and there's just no places to park. We have playground challenges, also outdoor play areas. There's a limited amount of acreage that we have on the sites. Luckily, this school is adjacent to the municipal park, and so there's a nice shared facility scenario there. But that really isn't the same at Verner and 10th Street. One of the challenges that has been identified is when you have multiple schools of the same grade groupings. So in this particular case, we have K6 at 10th Street and K6 at Verner. You end up with some challenges. And those challenges are probably relatively obvious to most folks that have students in the buildings. Class sizes vary from one year to the next. Oftentimes teachers have to change teaching 4th grade to teaching 5th grade to follow a group of kids through the buildings. We have differentiation in the amount of kids per class in one school versus another school. So as an example, you could have 18 4th graders in one school and 25 4th graders in another school. And so that's just what happens when you have catchment areas for each individual school, and the only way to solve that problem is to redistrict every year with the kindergarten class that comes in and try to manage things. That's not really a great way to do things. So the district has found ways to be successful. We have a little bit of space in both buildings, so we've been able to move some things around to accommodate. Also, under that scenario, we have some duplication. If you kind of think about it, 2 schools not very far apart from each other, offering the same programs, all the support staff, special education, librarians, and so on and so forth. It's a shared duty to accomplish the education of the K-6 enrollment here in the district. 7-12, of course, all in one building, doesn't have that problem. It was identified that at the junior senior high we have some program needs as part of the 21st century looking forward. There is a request for an auditorium / large group instruction space. We'd like to solve the wrestling room problem that we have, updated locker rooms and maybe additional team rooms and storage. Right now we don't really have a choral room, a music choral room where you're using what used to be a storage room to accomplish that. So we're looking for a room like that. Technology, education, and family consumer science area of the building could use updating, modernizing, and something that facilities that actually match the modern programming that's trying to be done. And then recently it was brought up the potential of modifying something like the library for the gaming curriculum that's very popular in schools today. So as part of the master plan, we're asked to be objective and to look at all options, good or bad, and put everything out on the table and see if anything rises to the top. Are there other ways to do things? And why would you bother doing it? And based on goals and objectives, the very first thing is they're trying to be efficient. Consolidating facilities to reduce annual budgetary expense is really important for the district. Reducing maintenance and operational costs. They've spent a lot of time trying to solve those things. We have solar panels on the roof of this building and through a grant process to try to reduce energy costs. Things like that have been done. Creating staffing efficiencies where possible. If that is, if there is some ability to do that, what would that be when looking at facility master planning solutions? Improving educational equity in programs. I talked a little bit about class consistency and maybe special programming. Options, what are some of the options? You could solve the K-6 challenge of having 2 buildings by combining them into one facility and having all of the district's K-6 enrollment into one location. You could combine grade levels at 2 buildings. The Verner, you could separate them and have one building being like a K2 and the other building being a 3-6, so that you have all of the kindergartners, 1st and 2nd graders together, and then all of the 3rd graders, 4th and 5th graders, and 6th graders together. So at least each class is all together. Well, there are pros and cons to doing any kind of changes. Alternatively, we could also look at the middle high school format and consider going to a traditional middle school, which is grades 6 through 8, and having a 6 through 8 and a 9 through 12 process at that building, and then possibly combine K-5 into one facility. We could go another level and go at the middle high school, go to a 5-8 middle school format and a 9-12 format for the high school, and then combine elementaries to one facility into a K-4. At the end of the day, the district spent a lot of time talking about what the options were. We had open discussions with the board in the public forum, and it was requested that we focus on maintaining our grade groupings and what things do we need to do to be able to do that, or looking at an option where it is a K2 building and a 3-6 building at the elementary level, and maintaining the 7-12 format here at the junior senior high. The other options on the table, I mentioned, actually I listed them all already, so I won't do that again. For those who might not be very familiar with the existing buildings and their differentiation, these are the floor plans of the individual buildings. This is Verner Elementary's lower level. They're color coded as to the kind of rooms that they are, but this is an exercise on capacity. Trying to make sure that we're all on the same page as to how many kids are generally, how many regular classrooms do we actually have to fit students in at the elementary level. On the ground floor, we have no capacity. There's no rooms that actually are general classrooms. And so home rooms are what creates capacity at the elementary level. It's a little bit more complicated at the 7-12 because the kids move around and the scheduling format is different. On the first floor at Verner, we have a functional capacity of about 124 students. Now, one of the things that we do is we call it functional capacity because you could fit a lot more kids possibly inside a room, but how many students does the district really want to put in a room, and what are their targets to try to have a comfortable teaching environment? And so at this level, on this floor, we have second grade, let's see, what do we have? Yeah, second grade and some first grade here. We're using 20 for first grade, 20 students per room, and 22 for second grade. And so that's how we got our numbers. Up on the upper floor, the second floor of that building, we have another 140 students. Same sort of calculation. When we get into the higher grades, there's 24 students per room allowable Our total capacity, functional capacity for that building is 264. If you remember, we have 158 in there right now. So there's a little bit of room. Let's call it around 100. Over at 10th Street, 10th Street does actually have a lower level, but it's mostly for storage. There's no capacity on that level. On the main floor, you can see the classrooms identified. I'll go ahead and cut to the chase. There's 250 capacity for 252 kids on the first floor. And on the second floor, another 186 kids. That's a total of 438. Does anybody remember how many we actually have?
393.
Oh, 401.
Ooh, that was as of last year, sorry, Dr. Z.
I'll remind us
I'll
later
take
on.
We're gonna
401.
beat the high school.
I'll take 401.
Now, in this building, the junior, senior high, it's a little more complicated, as I mentioned before. The Department of Ed asked us to put 25 kids in every single room when we're calculating capacity. The problem with that is, I went ahead and did that. We have some rooms that are special rooms, they're electives, but they take up a whole room. And you oftentimes can't fit 25 kids or schedule 25 kids in those rooms. Family Consumer Sciences would be an example. So those get less full-time equivalents, let's say. They ask that you look at a gymnasium as a two-class format. That might not always be realistic for PE when they're scheduled. But at the end of the day, when we look at both floors, this is the ground floor and this is the main floor, we get a total capacity of 704. That's multiplied against a 20% inefficiency ratio. So the Department of Ed basically says that for a secondary building, you can probably only schedule to 80% capacity. It's really hard to schedule 100%, or you could schedule 90% pretty easily at the elementary level, because all you're doing is homerooms. As long as you have those homerooms, you could, get it pretty tight. In working with the administration, we know that this number is probably not realistic because of all of the different scheduling opportunities that there actually are, class opportunities that there are. We have some classes that just don't have as many students as others. You might have, let's say, honors calculus or something like that. Maybe there's only 15 or 16 kids in one period on that. Because of the way the scheduling works, we can't get everybody, we can't fill that room to 25 student capacity. It's just not possible. So there are always challenges. So I want everyone to be careful when you see this number against the 445 students that we have in the building today, roughly. It's not 100% realistic. We can't fit another 250 or 300 kids in this building. That's not possible. Could we fit another 100? Yeah, I think without a problem. Could we fit a whole grade level? Maybe, but not much more than that. The other challenge that we have is this isn't just a high school. This is also a middle school, a 7-8, a junior high format middle school. And their class scenario for scheduling is also different than the 9 through 12. And the more younger grades that you keep bringing into a school like this in a different structure, the more challenging it is to try to find rooms and to schedule. And eventually you end up with two completely separate schedules running at the same time. Separate bells, all those kinds of things. You already sort of deal with it a little bit. You'd be dealing with it a lot. That's one of the challenges of bringing elementary grade kids in here. Plus we also have certifications for teachers also potentially. That's a challenge. So with that, this is just a summary page here, giving everybody a little bit more detail, the square footages of each building. I included a thing on here that is what I call the school planning guide. So when we're designing elementary schools, junior high, middle schools, and senior high, how many square feet per student would you normally need to be able to support that student, those students? And these are industry standards. Somewhere for an elementary school, we plan a building between 150 and 160 square feet per student. Dependent upon the size of the school, the smaller the school, the higher that number goes up. Because if you think about it, if you only have 200 kids in a building, but you have a gym or a cafeteria and a library, oftentimes those spaces are the same size as if you could have 400 kids. And so there's inefficiency with things like that. Up at the junior high level, 175 to 185 square feet per student is about typical. And at the senior high, 200 to 220. At the 220 level, again, it's the number of students that make a difference, but also if you had a pool, you don't have an auditorium here, things of that nature, and so you don't have some things that a typical high school might have. There is that component. But anyway, those are just industry standards, just for your points of view. We're looking at things at, just as a summary, current enrollment 158 at Verner, 393 at 10th Street. And then I just did the math, the functional capacities of Verner 264, that left a capacity of 106 available to be able to 106 more students that could fit into Verner, and then over here at 10th Street another 45. So it's pretty tight at 10th Street for sure. And then we have extra room over here at Verner. The problem is that the lines drawn are not, it's not so easy to move lines, and that creates a challenge. And then at the junior high, this is the difference. You have 445 in there now with the functional capacity at 704. That's the 259 number that is not to be trusted. But it's math. So the options that the district has considered, this is the format of your current district, 2K6 and 1712 building. And then they went through a number of options. Option A is just maintaining what you have, keeping the K6 format and the 712 format the same. What are our challenges? We still have the class size inequity, teachers shifting grades, students separated until 7th grade, staffing traveling, and staffing inefficiencies overall. Advantages, of course, for our communities, neighborhood format. It's really nice to be able to walk to school. It's nice to be able to have that consistency in everyone's life. There's no busing at the K6 format, and there are really no cost implications. You're already paying for it the way it is, so unless it changes, there's no efficiency or there's no added monies involved. The next option was an option B, which was to consolidate the two buildings into one. In this particular case, it's keeping the grade groupings the same, and so that would be creating a K6 building. 551 kids, that's a pretty normal sized elementary school. The problem that we have is we don't really have a building to do that. It would take quite a few more students. You can see well over 100 more students to fit into the biggest building, which is 10th Street. But there's all sorts of challenges. There's no place to put additions. More kids means more necessary play area. Support spaces like library, cafeteria, kitchen would need modifications. And then we already have a problem with parking for events and things like that. And then the other component is this also adds busing. And so that's another challenge that happens if you consolidate into one building with the K6 in particular. Option C was to actually shift 6th grade up to the junior senior high, take advantage of a little bit of extra space here, and then try to reduce the number of kids and get everybody into one building. In this particular case, we keep showing 10th Street as that building, not because we like 10th Street better, it's just a bigger building, and it's just space. We're still would need more rooms. There's not enough capacity in that building. We have functional capacity of 438. We'd have 476 kids in the K5 enrollment as it stands today. And so there's a little bit of a challenge. And again, similar situation with playgrounds, parking, all those kinds of things. It's, I think, sort of doable, but it also creates a challenge for the district also from an educational platform point of view. When I'm done, maybe you could talk a little bit from your perspective, sure would help me. Option D was one that we were asked, the board asked us to look a little bit closer at and do some costing. And again, that was to create a consolidate the grades and put K through 2 together and put 3 through 6 together. Does it fit? Yes, it fits. Both buildings can each do that. If you did that, you'd have 236 kids in Verner. We have a capacity of 264. You'd have 315 at 10th Street. You have a capacity of 438. So the buildings actually can accommodate that fairly well. But what happens? Now we've got a scenario of busing. How do we do busing? We'd have to run a couple buses through the district. Families that have had students that are used to the K-6 format at one building. Now, if you're walking in one community from K2, and you're busing from 3-6 over to that community and vice versa. So it creates a situation where you could have a student at both buildings. They're not very far apart, but still, if you're a family that needs to drive the students and drop them off early because you have to get to work, those kinds of things, now you're going to 2 separate places to do that. So creating some complexities. So maybe we talked about possibly staggering busing, things of that nature. And then, of course, what the impact on the neighborhood school format would be about. And then, obviously, some of the advantages, solving the class size, inequity scenario, being more efficient with staffing, being more balanced, and bringing students together earlier rather than when they get up into 7th grade. The other 2 options, option E was to move 2 grades up to this building, to the 7-12 building, and create a 5-8-9-12 structure, and then consolidate. We have 369 K4 students in the district. At 10th Street, there's a capacity of 438, so they'd be able to fit inside that building. And all of the same situation that we just talked about at D just gets a little bit more exasperated, a little bit more challenging at this building to be able to fit everyone in the 5-8-9-12 format. We get some significant issues from a staffing point of view under that scenario. If you think about it too, if you're currently teaching 5th grade and you're in the K-6 environment, and how do you do special ed in the K-6 environment? Well, right now it's in the K-6 environment. Some special ed is crossover. If you need a reading teacher and you're teaching 3rd grade, and you might be teaching 5th graders, now the 5th graders are up here. Does the district have a teacher travel now from there to here at certain days of the week, or do they have to hire another staff member to be able to be here to handle the elementary population that would be added to this building? So lots of unanswered questions, but things that we see regularly in districts that could be challenges. Of course, here we again have the loss of the neighborhood format. Busing, of course, is required. In this scenario, one of the challenges when we see this kind of thing is a similar challenge to C, which is the entire population of Verner is being bused. But we still have 10th Street that can walk to school. And we see that as obviously a community conflict that we'll have to work through. And then the last one was actually just shifting 1 grade up to the high school, 6-8 format and 7-12 format in this building, and then leaving the K5 and the and leaving the elementaries at each building being a K5 instead of a K6. That reduces the number of kids in the building and reduces some pressure, but it exasperates other things. Now all of a sudden, Verner only has 136 kids inside that building. Makes it not a very viable situation. You could fit twice as many in there in that building. And so I would predict the inequitable situation with population, and then to be even worse, and then probably the staffing component would actually be even harder too, because you still got the support staff that has to be able to serve the population.
Last two major renovations.
Yes, we definitely would have to have renovations here, and that goes all three of those, C, E, and F. You'll be looking at some modifications to this building.
Pretty significant.
I think so, yeah. Compared, I mean, it depends on what your perspective is, but it definitely would be changes. So this is a quick transportation study. I kind of covered it over there before, but if you look at A through F, currently right now, option A, we have one bus run for the 712. We don't have busing for the younger kids. When we get to option B, which is the K6 format in one building, we'd have to have two bus runs, a K6 bus run, and then the 712. And again, it's not the full K6 component because part of that group is already in 10th Street. When we get to option C, it's the same thing, the two bus runs. Option D, again, two bus runs, because in this scenario, even though we still have all three buildings, we're busing populations back and forth between the two sides. Option E, consolidating and shifting, it's very similar to the to option B. And again, two bus runs. One of the things that we were trying to do with F, because we kept both buildings, we'd still only have one bus run. It would just be 612 instead of 712. So again, I'm sure a lot of folks looking and listening right away say, why the heck would you even bother doing that? It's just because we can say we looked at it and we talked about it, and in some cases, districts have done these things. And so it might not be right for Riverview, but the point is your board has actually been studying it and talking about it and trying to make sure they're making good inroads to the future. I'm definitely not going to read all these. This is option D with a little bit more analysis on each one of the subject matters. We looked at specialized resources and facilities, teacher collaboration and consistency, targeted student support, balanced enrollment and class size, easing transitions, and school culture. Each one of those administration worked on talking about those subject matters and how option D would actually be make effect. So what those impacts would be. That was advantages here, disadvantages, very similar to the things that I've covered, but they spent a lot of time working through that. Option D also, we looked at the costing of option D and what those impacts would be. There are some first cost things like changing signage. There's busing cost that are annual cost. So we said that basically about $200,000 to $300,000 of one-time cost. So that would be if you're making the switch, you'd have to do some things once, but you wouldn't have those as annual budgetary expenses. After that, you'd have things like busing as an additional expense that you didn't have before, and among a few other things. So we had some savings in some staff travel. We didn't really get much operational savings under that scenario, but our total budgetary impact annually would be between $190,000 and $235,000 of added cost to the district to make that change for option D.
Which is K through 2, 3 through 6.
Yes, sorry. I thought everyone was following.
We're there.
Clarify.
Which one is G?
In the latter portions of the study, we looked at
That's what they're leaning towards.
some of the facility modifications that we know
Right here.
have been discussed, and what would a solution look like? And most of that is here at the junior senior high, and I'm going to skip a little bit, but priority one was trying to create a large group assembly room. We were looking at a multi-purpose type space with a flat floor where you could have an auditorium type experience, but also have an LGI format, telescopic seating, so you can have a big flat open floor for multiple events, but then also have this have an auditorium-like setting. And then along with that comes multiple options for what you could put in, and there's a little program like what some of those things could solve. And then priority 2 for some of the renovations within the existing building. So we just did some quick studies just to show, can we add any space to this building? And if so, what are our options? Where would it be? And so we identified 2 areas where you could add on. Just from a plan perspective, for anybody who's looking at this, on the right-hand side of the page, right across the street is the bakery. So this is the bus loop currently right through here. You still can have the bus loop. Right now there's a big hillside here, a big grassy hillside there. The bus would have to be shifted just a little bit, but this could work here. We can fit much of the additional program in here. The thing that's nice about this is there's a public end. You could separate this whole side of the building from the academic side of the building if you were going to have an event in the evening, and folks could use this entrance and come in to the large group area, and it's connected to the athletic wing. Underneath that, the needed athletic space could be attached to the gym right underneath that. Things like wrestling rooms, storage, team rooms, things of that nature. So you could sort of kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. And then we looked over here. One of the things on the list was, if you remember, the choral music room. That was one of the things. In this space, this could also be the 2-story format. On this lower level, we could have some of those spaces there. Okay. There, that was the upper level. This is the lower level. So you could see that we could get orchestra, we could get storage, we could get wrestling here too. There's an access to the athletic wing here, and then there's access over here to the fine arts area also. So it's a possibility that some of those things be solved. On the upper level, I didn't talk about that, the administration. If something got built here, we could fix the problem that we have. And for folks that don't know, there's a little security issue here. All the administrators are back here, and the secretaries and everything, and when you buzz in, they have to get up and come around the corner. It's just very awkward. That we'd like to fix that problem. I think an addition probably helps us fix that problem a little bit easier and create one entrance scenario where you could come in to an auditorium type setting in a lobby, and then we could fix how this is oriented a little bit. So there's just a little site sketch showing how we could still get the busing in here. This one is probably a little bit harder to build, but maybe is the easiest at the end of the day to operate, and has very little change on the site, other than the fact that the principal doesn't get a window anymore.
Yep.
But nobody cares.
We're going to build me a balcony out onto the LGI.
Yeah, you're going to have rooftop.
Private box.
Yes.
We'd solve some natural light issues, of course. It matters.
You're gonna build your little patio in the back.
Little umbrella.
Then we have some cost options for each one of those areas, just to give a district a concept of what they might be looking at if they chose to do some of those things. And the first one was the large group instruction new additions. That's somewhere between $8 and $8.8 million. The tech ed, art, and family consumer science health renovations is between 1.8 and 2.4. Locker room and team renovations, this is the existing area, not new, between 900,000 and 1.2. And then modifying the reception area as a renovation component would be 200 to 280,000. What the district always does is they create a master plan when they're doing things that's like a 5-year document. And so as they've gone through doing all their improvements and their changes in the district over time, they plan that out. I think we started maybe with a 10-year document, and then we went to a 5-year document. We've been keeping that up. But when a project looks like it might be something the district wants, they put it on that and then they begin planning for the future. So Riverview does a very fantastic job of that. And that doesn't happen without going through all this kind of conversation.
When you're saying large group instruction, that's auditorium.
That's auditorium, yeah. I probably use it interchangeably. Would you like to?
No, I think the board, in past conversations, sort of diverted to two more feasible or less costly options. So I think the purpose of tonight is to get input, get board input, get some community input in terms of what they think is feasible or viable, what's cost effective, and then we start to have conversations and focus on one of those options so that we can continue to build a 5-year plan. If there are costs associated with long-term improvements, we want to be proactive in creating those, cost structures so that we're moving towards a target. So I applaud the board for going through master planning. It certainly helps me as a superintendent. It's like, okay, well, we've got all the buildings up to code, we've fixed the rooftop units, we've taken care of all the pipes and the things that students can't see. We're at a pretty neat place. Like the turf at the elementary schools is a great example of that. We're getting to the point where we're starting to do things like an end of the life scoreboard, or like turf in the play areas, which is solving a long-term issue that has been an issue for 20 years. And now we have to think of, if, say that we stay in a K through 6, 7 through 12 plan, maybe that's the most cost effective. But if we do that, what are going to be the K through 12 or the instructional needs that we're going to need to think about and plan for and budget for as we move forward? Or is this K through 2, 3 through 6 option when we're adding about $300,000 to the annual budgetary cost? What's that going to look like in the long term? It solves some problems. It causes some problems. Like everything in education, you have pros and cons, and you weigh those things out. But yeah, I think we're at a good place in terms of discussing it. I mean, do we want to open it up for?
Yeah, if anybody had any questions about that.
Yeah, board members, let's start with just questions from the board. Anything that you want to ask Dan or we have all of the instructional leaders here. We have us. Any questions germane to the presentation? Then we can kind of open it up, get some community input, get some board input as well in terms of what you all think. Any questions?
As far as like the two main options that we've been looking at, the K2 and 3-6, still at two separate schools, the money going towards busing, kind of the loss of the community school, parents having kids at two different schools, just I don't see it as like, if there was a big financial positive to doing that, maybe that would be a good idea educationally to have the grades together in a certain area, in one area or in one school. But it's not. I mean, an extra $250,000 a year every year in our budget for busing is.
And with a 2% increase every year projected.
Yeah, I mean, our numbers aren't changing. They're staying pretty stable. So for me, like, I just, after all the presentations and all the numbers, like, to me, our setup that we have now, to me, is the best option. But I do think that looking, again, like to another 5 or a 10-year plan, looking to modernizing, some of our areas, updating certain things for better educational opportunities for the kids versus, saving money on a building or, is not the priority. I think we should be looking towards that. I mean, it's ridiculous that we have a high school that doesn't have an auditorium, for the number of activities that have to be up at the elementary school. The fact that we don't have that is crazy to me. And I guess, financially, obviously that is a huge ticket, you know, so looking at how far into the future, what type of financial planning would that take? It would have to be probably a bond issue as far as that, and at what point would we be ready for that? And the five or 10-year plans, I don't know, I can't remember, you know, what was the budget on those? We had like I can't remember how much the bond was that we, you know, used over all those years.
The last one was $7 million bond issue. And we have we used all that, and we have about 1.5 million left. Is that correct, Sheila? For the kitchen project is where we're at, the last thing.
We have money in the reserves.
We have money
for
in
that.
reserves, but we do
Okay.
not have money from any bond issue remaining.
Right.
Right now, rates, where our bond issues sit and when they will be callable, and we have really good rates on our bonds. So it's not beneficial to do a repurchase agreement or anything with our bonds because we do have such phenomenal rates. It's a good problem to have when you have a higher rate bond and you're able to do a repurchase agreement to get a lesser rate, then you get a little bit of a windfall, right? Or you push that into the bond to lower your payments. We don't have that capability. So anything that we would purchase would either be out of pocket or it would be a bond issue. Right now on bond issues, we would have to take out at least a $7.5 million bond to make that bank eligible. And rates right now are at about 4.9%. So that's kind of where we are. The rates we have right now on our bonds are around 2. So
When you reached out to our associates, you know, what did they say, and what would you recommend in terms of, like, you know, financially a good time to do something like that if the board would decide to do that?
So when I reached out to our bond person at PNC, she did a couple of assumptions for me. If we dated this, say, September of 25, she was just working with today numbers. The first principal payment wouldn't be until September of 26. In 5 years, that would be callable. So if rates went down, we would be able to do a repurchase agreement. There would be a couple of years in there when, actually a few years, probably 4 or 5 years until it was callable, that those bond issues would increase our budget. There is a way to structure bond payments where you can push it out instead of a 20-year, you push it out 25, you lower those payments so you don't really see a huge increase. That's really the way to do it if you've already got the 20 million in payments that we still have that Justin spoke of. That's really where we are. If we did a bond, it wouldn't be callable for 5 years. But at a 4.9% rate, assuming, and rates are starting to go down, like even at interest rates on our bank accounts were at 5.21% at the beginning of this year, and now they're down to 4.12. So rates are starting to fall. But yeah, that's where we're at.
More discussion.
I'll concur that I sort of feel like there's not like an overarching need to change the structure as it sits now. Like Wendy said, if there was some huge cost savings that we were trying to take advantage of, that's one thing, but I don't feel like there is, and then it's adding the bus factor as well as splitting up parents running to different buildings with kids and whatnot, you know, it just adds complicating factor. But I feel like the biggest issue is if we're facing declining population, whether it's the state or just, you know, Riverview in general, the biggest thing that I see is making Riverview attractive to outside folks wanting to live here. And I think one of the biggest, biggest promotions I guess we can have is to say we have great neighborhood schools, and we have, those kids all meet at the junior, senior high school, in one place at a certain point. And so the benefit of having those walkable communities and things is a big part of that. And so stripping that out of the equation, also having some other negatives that other districts don't have, where we don't own some of our facilities. We don't, there's other issues where we have to just make do because we have what space we've got, I feel like it'd be easy for a family to go, I don't want to live there because I got to have one kid in here and I've got to have one kid over here. It kind of kills the feel of the community environment of people wanting to come here, as opposed to saying, you know what, I'm just going to move to Fox Chapel or Seneca Valley or Mount Lebanon or wherever, just because it's easier, and it's not got all these weird intricacies that we have, which are sometimes good, but they are also detrimental sometimes, for people who want to make the move from another place. So I don't feel like there's any need to make things more complicated if there's not some big cost savings. I definitely think though, in order to remain competitive for families moving to Riverview, we do have to upgrade our facilities, at least those of which we own, namely at the high school, because of the lack of space that we have for extracurriculars, academic, music, athletic, whatever they are. Again, that's a negative for some parents to say, wait, their high school doesn't have an auditorium, they don't own their football field, they don't, what the heck, that's not attractive if I'm gonna move my family here, from some other part of Pittsburgh or from out of state, or something like that. So those things, I think, while we shouldn't have to feel like we need to be competitive as a public district, we do have to be to some degree, because they can also choose to spend their money at a private school or parochial school. And so it makes more sense to me to look at what do we need to improve to continue to make our district viable and attractive to people moving here, so that those numbers don't decline to a point where we're like, gosh, now we have 700 kids in the district, not 1,001 or whatever. And now we're gonna have to just shut a building down and, really consolidate in a greater way. So I would be much more of the mind of saying, okay, we've got 1 or 2 projects left. We're gonna have to take out another big bond to do a big project at the high school, whether it's adding this multi-use space or, whatever it is that we decide upon. If it's $4 million or whatever the amount, costs, then that should, be our focus in terms of what's important for the next 5 to 10 years. To keep us at least where we are and to not have us drop more in population, because I think that we've done a decent job and have had a little bit of a comeback since COVID, thankfully. But in order to keep that level or increase, rocking the boat that it makes us attractive, in taking that chance could negatively impact us, I think, more so than saying, you know what, we're going to just take on some more improvements that'll help our kids in our district thrive in the future. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. The only other question I guess I would have would be, since we've talked about options of start times and things like that, if any of these options we've discussed or studied work the best for that change, if it does, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but that was something I thought of.
Anyone online want to share some thoughts? Mr. Hall?
Yeah, I will.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think it's our duty to look at all these options. We have to see if there's other ways to, help us economically and keep us viable. But right, I also think, we need to be good stewards of this information, and we have it. We need to mull it over. But if we don't look at things like this, we say a lot of what ifs, and these certainly brought up a lot of things that I did not think of when I was sitting in the audience watching these and going, see people making these decisions and deciding consolidation, non-consolidation, all of these things. There's a lot of economic factors and socioeconomic factors that play a big role in this that you don't really see unless you have somebody do this study. I appreciate it, but yeah, I mean, I don't think the option to make any major changes is viable at this point. I think it costs us more in the long run, but I also agree that an auditorium at the high school would be great, and squeezing class sizes and moving grades around is not going to help that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's something that needs to be a big picture item that is something we look at in the future here. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs that got answered by doing this study and going through this, and I know it took a ton of time and it took a lot of hard work. So I appreciate it, but I don't think there's any major cost saving moves that can be made at this point.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone else virtually?
I just need to think about it a little bit more. I need to consider how the renovation and potentially needing to consolidate or move things around in the future, how that may need to interplay with each other. I just need some more time to consider that.
Anyone else here?
The one thing that I can't help but think, I like the current setup, I like the walking town, I'm curious if there are any parents out there who would prefer busing. You just, put your kid out the front door, you're not driving across town in the morning, it's easier for parents, busing is easier for parents. Nobody's really talked about that.
In the strategic plan survey, I
Yeah.
have to pull it up. It wasn't the most popular thing.
I know. I know.
For parents,
And
I'll say that.
But that alone, that one little thing alone is easier. That part of the day is easier, right? Putting a kid on a bus versus physically taking your child to school is,
I think the trouble with that.
It just
too,
depends
is
on where the bus
if
stop
you've got
is.
a kindergartner and a third grader,
Yeah.
and you're putting one on a bus and you're having to take the other one, to me, then that's not a savings for me,
And you could have kids in 3 schools.
Yeah,
Potentially,
or you
so-
have the older one helping the younger one, and then that doesn't help, that doesn't work anymore because they're not going to the same building,
At the end of the day, look, I completely agree with your original sentiment, Jen, and Brian, sort of shouted, I agree that there's no compelling reason to make any major changes, but there should be a big focus on updating current facilities. That's sort of where my mind is.
I moved here from a busing district, and I will say that my oldest, who has graduated from here, went K through 2.5 in a busing district, and his vocabulary was unbelievable. And I'm not kidding,
Lots of things on the bus.
it was unbelievable, the things he got off of that bus. And
Is that a bad thing, Brian? I'm what are you saying?
Roger, it's not great vocabulary, same problem.
I work in construction.
I wrote about it.
And he was using it at a much earlier age than ever.
Just another thing with busing too, if we start to bus elementary kids, then we also have to start paying for elementary kids to be bused to charter schools and out of the district. So because we don't do that, we don't have to offer that or pay that.
We already pay more for busing kids out of the district than our own kids in
Actually,
the district.
the larger expense of the
Which
busing
is
would,
crazy.
the biggest expense would actually be that. We talked with the bus company, and there would be a way to sort of like, if you adjust start times, and that's another, that sort of, that K through 2 would have to lead to start time discussions in order to minimize costs on multiple bus runs. But the big cost is the parochial and charter schools. That's the big cost. Now, all those kids in K through 6, you're responsible for getting to school. Since we have buses for everybody, you have to bus them as well. So that takes up the lion's share of the costs in that scenario.
I'm also wondering, because although our schools are walkable, a majority of our kids are driven to school, how many parents would utilize the bus? Like, regardless of its availability, that doesn't require a parent to put their child on the bus. So I guess that's my other wondering, are we going to, in that scenario, would we be paying for buses that are going to be mostly empty?
I mean, that's,
I'll be honest, I would not be surprised if that was the case, based on the habits and of parents right now.
yeah, no, that's a
And
good
that's not
point.
criticism, it's just a reality.
It's a good point. Anyone else?
I have a couple of things.
Sure.
And Tanya, if you have anything you want to share. We'll come back.
Go ahead, Erin.
So a couple things that I just made some notes. I'm always a fan of data and information, so thank you, Deanne. This is comprehensive and helpful to have all of it in front of us. And options are important, and our responsibility is to look at what's reasonable and what's responsible for our district. So I think this helps to really solidify those ideas and be able to look at it and say what is within our grasp and what is without. I'm not in favor of changing things that aren't going to affect the growth of our district and our students, particularly. So just making change to make change is not always a great idea. I don't see a real compelling reason to change, and I would rather, as I've said before, 8 years ago we made the decision to move here because of the district, because of what it had to offer. If there's ways we can improve what we have to offer, we'll bring in more people. We looked, and when we moved, we said we had the option of Fox Chapel, which is ginormous, or we can go to, Riverview, where there's going to be opportunities in a small scale, and people are going to know your kid, and you're going to have those things. So I think it's more responsible to say, what do we do to improve the experience here and what we have? We have a gem and a really unique district. Let's make it better. And I don't think moving kids around are different from what we have when those great neighborhood feelings that you have in those spaces. When you go into Verner, you feel the neighborhood. When you go into 10th Street, you feel the neighborhood. And I think that really is a powerful thing. I was a bus kid in a large district, and we had, the lines were wonky. So I lived 1.5 miles from the high school, but I didn't qualify for the bus. So I had to walk, or my parents had to drive me. So you get into the logistics of where are the lines. You get into the logistics of what does the route look like in Oakmont in the morning? What time do you have to start that there's not a traffic mess? I can't even imagine, where does the bus stop? How does it get through the streets? Because there's parking on both sides of the street. So those are the logistics things that, like, the traffic mess makes me anxious just to think about it.
I think you're predisposed based on where you live.
I think I'm predisposed. I live on 3rd Street, but it's a trauma.
It's
so
a trauma
fine.
from 3rd Street.
That's very funny.
It's always a trauma.
I live right across the street.
Erin, I feel like we share that.
Yes, you have probably a similar concern of how do the bus routes work. I think there is space if we keep the current model, and it's something that I think I will just keep pounding, is the intentionality of getting our kids, making more intentional times for those kids from Verner and 10th Street to get together so that there is that easier transition when they come to the high school. So that's one space that we have, we keep them the way it is, but let's, how can we think about things to do that? And we have really great people who can think about those things. I have total faith in that, if that's something that we can make happen. But I think if we aren't willing to start thinking about renovations and things that will make our district more palatable, to say, oh, well, they have this, or they're thinking it forward, and they're doing things. And giving some to the athletics, giving some to the arts, and just expanding what we can do in better ways. I think that's where my heart lies. My kid's been in the musical and orchestra and chorus, and we're trucking up the hill to 10th Street, which is a beautiful facility. But it'd be much easier if he was just trucking them down here. Which it won't happen in his lifetime, and that's fine, or his time here at Riverview. But I'd like to think that it makes us a little stronger as an option for people when we have modernized things and enough space for everything we need to do. So I think we stick with what we have and concentrate on ways to make us better.
Falco, can we entertain the community input now, or say, because it doesn't have to be in
It's a study session.
Public comment.
public comment, okay.
It's a study session.
Yeah.
I mean, we can open it up.
So you can
now.
have the community members.
Community
chime in.
members, any thoughts on? Thoughts? Go ahead.
I was super excited the first time that you all showed us drawings that would allow this auditorium with collapsible seats, seating 300, that auditorium at 10th Street, which we love, I believe seats almost 300, and in fixed seating, so you can only use an auditorium. So I thought that was cool. I thought the possibility of an auxiliary gym, those kind of things. I believe, like with all of you, what can we do to make our district compete with other districts? But I'm still hung up on the charter, the homeschool. I mean, there are families that are just going to do that, but what can we do to bring those people back, to lower those costs that are, I can't remember, 1.2 million. What was the number? Is it over $1 million? What do we pay?
No, we decreased a little bit. We're just a little over for cyber charters, between 500,000 and 600,000.
Oh, okay. So bring those.
So
What
we
are
brought
they?
some back.
Why are they going out to the brick and mortar charter schools? Why are they going? What don't we offer that, the busing of K through 12 to the private, that's crazy. And that our kids could live in Oakmont and, possibly the kiddos in Verona, you might have to get on a bus an hour before you have to get for school because of the routes. And, traffic on Halton Road, and God bless the bakery, but I see it being a huge mess.
Yeah.
Huge mess. So I want to do what we can do to this building, our buildings, to entice these families who live here, come here, buy the houses here, but the ones that send their kids out, bring them back.
I agree too. I think keeping it the way it is and then improving, because the elementary schools are great, and my kids aren't in the high school yet, but I can see, those are the things that I would want, and, if we're coming to the high school here, or, consider leaving or whatever. I mean, we're not considering leaving, but I could see how families could think that way. Like, okay, we went to elementary school here, but we don't want to go to high school here because there's not these things. So I do agree leaving it the same. I think you could maybe explore some ideas of how to utilize Werner better, because even though you can't, get people to go over there and move it that way, maybe there's other ways you could use Werner differently, because it is a big building too, and we're not utilizing a lot of the space there. So I mean, even just offering, I'm not saying people would take you up on it, but maybe you say, like, do any of the district parents want their kids to go to Werner? Because it is more crowded at 10th Street. You might get more individualized education there because there's smaller class sizes. So if a parent wanted their kid to go to Werner, it's not that far. People that live on the edge of Oakmont, it's almost the same distance to drive to Werner if you're over there. So if you gave them the option, like, do you want to go to Werner? So your kid has 12 or 15 kids in their class instead of 25, and they want to, that might give you some more kids over at Werner. The teachers are the same level, everything's the same, that might just, and maybe their kid needs that because they have, they need a smaller class size or whatever. Maybe you could offer some of those kinds of things, or maybe you have other ways you could use that building to utilize it better and cost savings that way. I don't know, just an idea to like utilize things. So I agree otherwise. Yeah.
School choice within the district. That would be the best.
you bring up a good point too about losing kids once you get to middle school.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
that's been not a huge issue, but it's been an issue. Like where kids are like, oh, well, I'll stay in Riverview until we
So,
get high school.
yep.
And then I'm gonna make a change, whether I'm
Yeah.
moving or whether I'm just gonna pay for private school or whatever.
Right.
Because that's a thing for sure.
We don't lose that many, just a couple, most.
But even, you know, the wrestling, the sports, there's like
Yeah.
things that, you know, you might
But there's
go-
things that are
Sure.
different for high school that people are looking for
Right,
than what they're
right.
looking for K to 6 or whatever, you know.
And
so-
elementary school, I mean, it's important, but then elementary schools are great, you know, but high school is where you get into college, you're looking for certain things, so I could see why people go to private schools.
Yeah.
There are things that aren't available here. And if your kid is something, you know, some specific thing, that might be why. So if you offer more of those things,
Yeah.
I think that's important.
That's good. Good thoughts. Go ahead, Emily.
I agree, I can't imagine busing. It literally took me 10 minutes to make it from Wade Lane down to Upper Allegheny River Boulevard this morning at 10 after 7. I mean, I was behind a garbage truck, and he didn't give a hoot how long it took him, he was doing his thing. So just the logistics of, fitting the buses. And being a teacher, we deal with a lot of issues that happen on the bus, unfortunately. You know, it's just not supervised in the same manner. And I think that that's something to consider too. And being a parent in this school district, I've always appreciated not having to deal with that extra factor. I've been grateful for that. So I am definitely a proponent of leaving things the way they are. I guess my other comment would be, I believe that Verner receives some Title I funding. And if we were to move grade levels around to different buildings, I believe it could jeopardize some of that funding that we receive. So thus adding to another additional expense that the school district would have to absorb.
Yeah, could affect that. It depends. Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts? It's a great discussion. I love it.
I just have a few
Smith's good.
items. So I know that we are mostly talking about like the facilities, but we also talked about like how to attract more people to the school district. And so when I was looking, when we were going through like the strategic plan a year or two ago, I looked at like what Fox Chapel was offering, and you know, why was that more attractive? And although their budget is 10 times higher than Riverview, like they offer some like dual enrollment in college courses, and so I'm wondering like how expensive would that like be for us to offer? Is that like something that's feasible? Because like as a parent, like for me that's like a very attractive thing for a school to have. Now whether or not the student would need to get like bus to that dual enrollment facility, or if we could just have like a teacher come here, which would be like pretty amazing, like that might attract more parents to the district in of itself. And then like after school clubs, so I was looking at their after school clubs, and they had like 3 robotics clubs and like 2 programming clubs and a bunch of different language clubs. And so like what after school clubs do we have at our high school and elementary school that are going to attract like parents like to the school? And so those are like some of the things I was thinking about that would like put Riverview like on the radar for people who want to like think that we're up and coming and providing like the best opportunities for our kids, because we want to be competitive globally. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there.
I would agree with the college and high school classes.
Me too.
I know people that I teach with, their kids go to larger districts that have those opportunities. And honestly, until I started talking to them, I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I don't think we have that at my son's school. You know, and so I think that that is something that, sure, people would love to have that and be able to take, you know, advantage of that opportunity.
High school administration, you want to touch on that? Or?
Well, we do have dual enrollment. The dual enrollment is, you know, we have partnerships with WVU, CCAC, Duquesne. I think I'm missing one, but the hard part is you've got to get there.
They have
There's no
to get
busing.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no busing. And then as for college in the classroom, we've explored a few options, and there are a lot more colleges that do it now, but like a CCAC, there's too many hoops get to jump through, and none of our teachers, our teachers would be responsible for it, and we actually even went again, what was that, last year, and nothing has changed at CCA.
A couple months ago.
Yeah. Oh, was that this year? Okay.
Was this year?
Time flies.
So is it
And
this
some of the
year?
other ones have it's like an enrollment minimum. So our classes that would qualify don't have enough kids, but there are some other opportunities out there that we're looking at to bring in, because a lot more colleges do it now than, where you can earn credits. It's not necessarily just the few that were doing it a few years ago.
So it's something you're still looking
Oh,
at?
yeah, we just need to find the right one. And there's no cost to it, other than if you want the credits, you pay for the credits. But as for the district, there's no cost for us.
Are there more hybrid online components too, maybe now, because of like the online learning?
Well, for dual enrollment,
Yeah.
yes.
Where like we don't have to get the kid to the facility necessarily for them to be able to participate in one of those classes?
It just depends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what WVU is. Just
Yeah.
everyone's-
They're not going there.
Everyone's gonna hustle down to
Yeah.
Morgantown.
Got it.
Yeah, it is a part of our strategic plans. We're continuing to try to broaden our partnerships, as much as we can, to provide as much opportunity as we can. And it will continue to be a part of the new strategic plan as well.
Can I ask one more question specific to the high school? So I know, for example, at Plum, they have a PLA program. So if a student wants to participate in an online class, but it doesn't fit into their schedule, perhaps it runs concurrently with something else that they're taking, they're able to take it online through the school district, but there's a teacher in the district who is the instructor, but they move at their own pace. Is that something that Riverview has ever considered, or is that our size kind of prohibiting us?
We have it. Riverview Cyber Academy, we've had it for 5-6 years. And it's not as probably successful because our teachers have to be the teachers of record. That's written into the teacher contract. So we can only offer the classes that we have teachers that are certified in. So couldn't take Russian or something like that. So as long as we have the certified teachers for it, yeah, we increased the seating in it this year because the demand.
Yeah, we added budgetary line items to increase seats in case we need them.
When we first started it, it was more of a need basis. Like if you needed it, we started with seniors. If you needed it, we went down from there. That's how we filled seats. But the need kept increasing mainly because we don't have a lot of electives. So to get the classes that you need around the schedule, it's all based on what you can and cannot fit. And there's a lot of cannot fit further along, and then the online.
Okay, maybe we'll talk.
That's our way of making it work better for the high school kids. Any other discussion? Great.
So if you look at the program of studies, there's like a little
Antonio, you have anything?
courses that are available are marked with like an @ symbol, something like that, that are available online.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Dan. We
Not
appreciate it.
And you have to go like during the school year, so. in the
Let's
summer,
move into
we
some
don't have it.
brief updates by
It
our
just depends on the class.
administration regarding a winter student life wrap-up and spring preview. We're going to start with Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, when you're done, you can go. You'll have to stay when you're done.
Our teacher's necessary.
Okay.
Teacher.
Nothing to report.
Teacher. We don't do any APs.
Can't be that easy.
Good evening, everybody. So
They're
2
not.
down, 1 to go.
They're not going to pre-cal well.
So good season this year. Our boys basketball team, 1 game away from their first playoff berth, and I don't know how many you said, a lot of.
So they did good there.
Yeah, so 1 game away. If they won that Springdale game, they'd made it to the playoffs. They had 4 seniors graduate. Let's see. Boys 9th grade, 8th grade, and 7th grade had great seasons. They all played well. Our 9th grade team only had 7 players the whole season, and they finished 7-6. So they did real good. Girls varsity, they actually came second in the section, almost won the section title, made it to the playoffs. And speaking on facilities and things like that, we had to go to Kiski because our facility wasn't big enough to host it, and just a couple of things around the gym that we couldn't host it. But great game, great game, winning the whole first
Yeah, it
half.
was
Got in foul
there.
trouble. Yeah, ended up losing at the end of
Almost
the game.
painful.
So we have two seniors, so young team coming back next year, looking for a promising season next year as well. Wrestling, pretty good season for them too. Got 3 junior high wrestlers that have qualified for Keystone States. We got Braden Walsh, Owen Orbich, and Cody, I think it's Isaac. He's a Springdale guy, so we have that co-op. So 3 junior high guys going to Keystones next weekend, so wish them well. Our bocce team is good. I got to see my first bocce games this year, so that was very good. We had 2 teams. The one team finished 3-2. The other team 2 finished 2-3. So pretty good, pretty good. Club hockey. We co-op with Burl. We had Mike Morasic scored his 100th career goal. So he got a nice little write-up and everything like that. So that team ended up being 11-3 this year. So very nice season for all of our winter sports. Moving forward, we have 4 sports. We have baseball, varsity and junior high, track and field, and then junior high girls volleyball. So that actually starts tomorrow. Junior high baseball is tomorrow and Thursday. Varsity baseball scrimmages are Wednesday and Friday. Friday one is in Washington, Wild Thing, so if anybody wants to make that trip out there, it's kind of far, but they will be playing there at 7 o'clock. And soccer, we're getting ready to start our soccer interviews. We got about 6, maybe 7 applicants right now, so hopefully you guys will be able to put them on ads in April. That's it for me.
Awesome.
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Carter?
Everybody good?
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
All right.
Junior high plays Pine Richland tomorrow, so Dr. English, we're looking for you in the black and gold.
The black
Oh,
and
yeah.
Okay.
Your Riverview tomorrow, not Pine Richland.
I only go to Riverview things. I don't even go to Pine Richland.
His kids are like, you can come to our stuff too.
Oh, it's true.
Trouble at home. Trouble at home.
I don't know if you guys have ever been in that gym. That gymnasium at Pine Richland.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the new one.
Tom Hobb is. That's.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, thank you for all that you do. We really
Yeah.
we appreciate all the time. Mr. Carter, great job as always. And thanks for the update.
And you said I can leave?
Yeah.
Never asked.
I'm about to leave my bag and everything. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Get all your stuff.
Yeah.
It's an awkward second goodbye. Dr. Z.
Okay, student life update for 10th Street. On February 14th, we celebrate our last scheduled party of the year, Valentine's Day. We had 60 parents come and help out. On the 7th and 13th of February, our Wellness Committee held a Raider Bowl in honor of the Super Bowl. All classes went to the gym those 2 days to complete wellness football activities. The high school Model UN team is currently running an after-school language program. It's 5 weeks. It's a service project fundraiser for that Model UN team. We have a lot of kids involved in that. I don't know the exact number, but it's quite a few. Friday the 21st of February, the PTO and the 6th grade committee hosted a snowball special persons dance. We had over 325 people come to that event. And the 6th grade committee did a nice job providing snacks and drinks and the whole big celebration. On Monday the 24th of February was a big day at 10th Street. We had the first day kids were permitted to use the new turf, which was fantastic. And we also had the Sky Dome Planetarium, which they came and blew up a big planetarium in the gym, and our PTO paid for that, so that was great. Girls on the Run program is back up and running. Last week we celebrated Read Across 10th Street. We did a lot of special activities that week. Mark your calendar, the elementary book fair and 10th Street Art Show is March 31st through the 3rd, the art show being the 3rd of April. And then we have a combined assembly coming up with our friends from Werner. That's on the 26th of March, and that's the annual Pittsburgh CLO Assembly, their Gallery of Heroes program, which will be the next Galileo this year.
Science fair.
Yeah, science.
Oh, I forgot, science fair. I did that just as Mrs. Sullivan was sitting here. No, we had a science fair, combined science fair with our friends from Werner Elementary School. That was last Friday. And it's something now, it's the second annual science fair, and it was well attended. Mad Science Fair, we had lots of kids, grades 3 through 6 participate in that. I think the projects this year, I mean, not
awesome.
Last year's were not great, but they really stepped it up. And, really proud of the kids both at Werner and 10th Street.
Yep.
So it was a great night.
It really
So
was, yeah.
Yeah, it was
yes,
good.
there's a lot of fun that.
I know.
Okay, I'll do, you go, I'll do Werner since Dr. Monroe.
You wanna go?
Go, you go first.
Okay, I'll go stand near that camera. I'm not gonna stand right in front of it.
It's good as
In my too small vest. All
You're there.
We're already half of you.
A little entertainment here tonight too for you guys. So I'm going to skip over the ones that don't really have a new update. The Cultures Club is going, or they went to see a Mexican folkloric ballet. The Cultures class is going to go to the museum to make their own Cubism art, with the French class also going where they're going to make their own Impressionist art. Our newest club, the Gaming Club, very successful. They've had a handful of meetings so far. They split the kids up into 3 groups, so this is basically a D&D club. So they've got 3 different campaigns going on. Each group has had 1 session or 2 of actual playing. The plan is for each of the groups to meet every 2 to 3 weeks, and they really seem to be enjoying it. The GSA group got together to have a discussion of issues confronting the LGBTQ community. They are very stressed out with the current changes and a lot of the administration DEI programs, and so they had a well-run, safe place conversation, especially the trans students, where they reminded each other that Pennsylvania has not shown a political desire to encroach on established rights and parental rights, and students were also concerned about changes in the culture and how that might affect their treatment in the larger community, and focused on how much impact they had outside of the school while focusing on their safety and respect and protection while they were in school. So Mr. Carlin let me know that it ended up very well and the kids felt good before that conversation was over. Our gifted programs, Dr. McNally, at the beginning of February, the Bots IQ team went to the Bots IQ manufacturing facility. For the first time in our club's existence, actually participated in manufacturing raw materials into specialized robot parts. So basically they had a big giant chunk of metal and they got to see how to turn that into parts for their robots. The AIU Science Bowl, 8 kids, 2 teams of 4 attended the Science Bowl at the Carnegie Mellon Museum of Science. And both teams did well, finished just a few points behind the leaders. They explored the dinosaur exhibit as well as the displays of extinct species and other interesting topics. 10 students attended Linguistic, one of the national academic games. For the first time ever, one of our students qualified for nationals in this game, as Oscar Smith scored a 16 and made the finals. We also had 10 students attend the annual writing workshop at Pine Richland, and they engaged in a series of creative writing exercises. 3 students used their day off on the 17th, on President's Day, to participate in the Shakespeare monologues. On the 27th, we had 20 high school students participate in the local chess tournament. The top 10 finishers will advance to participate in the Northern Area Chess Tournament at Pine Richland in March. The SAT prep class, we had 12 students participate this year. They were held on Wednesdays and Saturdays in February and early March. Students learned about a surprising number of new developments that they can expect to see in the new digital and adaptive SAT test. Some students will participate in that as early as this last weekend. The History Club, National History Day Regional Contest, is on the March 16th, so it's coming up. We have 71 students competing. Additionally, 6 students are attending a lecture on Chinese-American relations with Mr. Kubistek at Duquesne on March 19th. the Model UN. We had 11 ninth graders participating in the Pitt African Union, which is a training conference on March 13th. Additionally, 5 seniors will be attending the Rome Model UN conference from March 24th to April 2nd. Our Inclusive Leaders group had their sensory-friendly training with Patton next week. This week, they start planning for the sensory-friendly dance, which is on April 13th. And we have Inclusion Week at the beginning of April, features an Inclusion Festival, a silent rave, a sensory-friendly dance at the high school for Special Olympic athletes from around the area. The junior class announced their theme for the prom. It's called A Night in the Enchanted Gardens. And it's going to be a buffet. At the March 5th meeting, students decided to hold another Parents' Night Out, which was a very successful fundraiser where they watched kids and parents got a free night out. So they're so successful, they're going to do another one. So anyone with kids, pay attention to that one. Junior High Student Council have continued to grow as leaders, taking part in planning upcoming junior high events and Spirit Days. They have met to plan, create posters, to advertise, count, and celebrate Spirit Days to encourage junior high connections. They also serve as leaders in their homerooms to plan activities for the town halls, such as the Wrap a Snowman event, where each homeroom planned a toilet paper wrapped snowman theme. Students showcased a summer theme, a baseball theme, and even a teacher theme. Students are also planning a creative competition for April to encourage students as we head into testing season. This will allow students to shine with their artistic and creative skills to fill our junior high hallway with some encouraging words for students. Key Club, getting ready to do planning their May fundraiser, which is called Mess Fest. Key Club is assisting in planning the sensory-friendly dance with the Inclusive Leaders, and they also attended the sensory-friendly training at Patton. The National Honor Society is in the midst of its annual fundraiser, selling Appalicious chocolate-covered apples and pretzels. Their money will be due at the end of the month. Products will be ready before Easter, and students are aware that they need their 10 community service hours documented and turned in by mid-May to stay in good standing with the Honor Society. So if there's any Honor Society parents out there, remind your kids to get those hours in. PJAS, which is Pennsylvania Junior Academy of the Sciences. So that elementary science fair must be doing something right, because we're doing really great at PJAS. So on Saturday, February 8th, 13 Riverview students participated in the regional PJAS competition at Baldwin High School. It allows students to complete scientific laboratory experiments and STEM-related investigations under the guidance of a teacher mentor. Students then present their results to a panel of scientists and engineers who evaluate the quality of their work. Like I said, we have 13 students here. If anyone's interested in the list, and actually, I don't think you want me to read all 13 of the project titles, but 9 of those students earned first awards for their projects, making them eligible to compete at the state level in May. In addition, Iris Versaw earned 2 special awards, the University of Pittsburgh Excellence in Biology Award and the Director's Award in Botany. Rocco Brown earned a Perfect Score Award for his project and presentation, while Penelope Murphy was awarded the Director's Award in Earth and Space Science. Special recognition was also given to Addison Carangio for having participated in the regional competition for the past 5 years and got the 5-year Perseverance Award. So congratulations to all of them for all their hard work. We're proud of their accomplishments and their dedication to STEM-related fields of study. SAD attended the monthly TRU meeting, which is the Tobacco Resistance Unit, trying to organize a student meeting so they can plan something for Take Down Tobacco Day on April 1st, Earth Day on April 22nd, and World No Tobacco Day, May 31st. And we just found out recently that the local police and firemen are interested in bringing in the car wreck before prom. So we'll do that activity, which we haven't done since COVID. So that'll be nice to bring that back.
What day is prom? You said May.
Prom? Did I say what day?
Did you say the
It's
date?
the first Friday in May, I believe.
May 2nd?
Yes. Senior class. The class officers are started planning the Senior Olympics, Senior Breakfast, and Senior Lunch, which are the next big 3 events that are happening. Those are all at the end of the year. It's coming up quick. Spanish Club will be holding a breakfast and a lunch event this month. They will also be working on a class collaboration with Pitt to have them come to the school to speak to some of the Spanish classes in April. Some of the officers will be attending the Pine Richland event focused on mental health. I've been to Pine Richland an awful lot, it seems like.
Everyone's welcome. Well,
the Student Council would like to thank everyone that has contributed to our food drive so far. Your generosity has made a meaningful impact, and we know we can do even more. To To maximize our donations and to help even more families in need, we are extending the food drive until April to give us more time to collect non-perishable food items and ensure that our local food bank is well stocked. In addition to the food drive, the Student Council is already looking ahead to next year's homecoming and we're beginning to brainstorm themes and ideas for next year's event. 2 more, we're almost there. Yearbook. Yearbook staff is currently working on our sales campaign. We had a booth at the Junior High Court Clash on the 27th and are advertising on the district website, Facebook page, and throughout the junior senior high school. We are also working on completing the club activities page in the yearbook, adding captions and pictures. Spring sports team pictures are scheduled for after school on Tuesday, March 18th. Last and final thing, it's not a club, but the junior high reading classes do the junior high book buddies. So we're going to do our second book buddies trip of the year on March 12th. So thank you, Dr. Zolkowski, and thank you, Dr. Monroe. All teachers who are participating between 10th Street and Verner, kindergarten through 3rd grade, will be reading a book ahead of time with their students. So students have a common shared text to discuss with their buddies. Junior high students will buddy up with elementary students, discuss the common text, Abdul's story, read another book together, discuss the book, and color a bookmark. That's our latest update. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Wait, he omitted one thing.
What did we forget?
The
basketball. 3-on-3.
The 3, yeah, as I went and read that in one, I never got-
Dr. Turk,
never got an
Dr.
update.
English. You didn't give him an update?
MVP. Well, then, that's the sports entertainment management class.
Uh-huh.
Runs that.
Yes, it was
I just
fantastic.
passed to Dr. Turk.
I think it raised a
That's
little bit
right
of money.
there.
There was some canned goods that were brought in.
It
There
was
were 7th
packed.
and 8th graders. It was packed.
There's not a spot in the
There
parking
was not a
lot, at
spot.
the park.
Those kids
If we
love
could
that
only
class.
get that kind of attendance for our regular games.
Well-
That's what we need to do.
So what I'm hearing is he wants to play at halftime.
Exactly. If we
No,
cut
no,
off-
that's not what you're hearing. You're not hearing that.
Yeah, no, we didn't say first shot.
No, you're making me wrong.
Teachers at halftime.
French
Yeah.
half-court shots at all girls games, that's what I heard.
I can do that.
Thank you. I'm going to go through Werner quickly, and then administrators. I know it's getting late. We'll let you get out of here. Okay. Werner. Alcosan Assembly, 4th grade had a visit from one of Pittsburgh's premier environmental and public health organizations, Alcosan. At a Sing Fest, 3 suits, Ben Stimmel, Allison Tagano, and Gabby Loring, accompanied Mr. Hart to Plum High School to join with other elementary schools in a singing competition. Pretty cool. Science fair, we talked about that. It was awesome. It was really awesome. And we had like great panels of parents that went through and judged everybody, and it was bigger and better than last year. So it's sorry, Sylvia. You do it one time, it goes well. It's a tradition. It's a Riverview tradition. Okay, it's a tradition now, so I'm sure we'll continue to do that. The dental assembly, they had AV orthodontics come to the 2nd graders. They visited the 2nd graders to teach the importance of proper brushing, flossing, and visiting the dentist by age 7. There's Read Across America Week, celebrated by having dress-down days through the week, mystery readers, and book buddies. K through 2 got a special treat for Read Across America by visiting the local Giant Eagle, where they were greeted by Thing 1 and Thing 2, given cookies decorated like green eggs and a tour of the different departments. There was a geology assembly. 1st grade students had a special visit from one of their fellow classmates' grandfather, Mr. Ron. There was a Duquesne Light assembly in 2nd grade. Where they participate in learning about not only how electricity works, but also safety factors as well. The Valentine's parties, the Candyland dance sponsored by the PTO was really successful. More than half the students participated. Book buddies, once again at the high school, will come to Werner and read to the younger students. I think that's Wednesday of this week, right? That's Wednesday. I gotta get around and get some pictures of that. And Book Fair Open House Art Show, March 26th. Be the book fair for Werner students only. March 27th, parents are invited to visit their child's classroom, shop the book fair, and tour the art show. So that's Werner in Dr. Monroe's absence. Administrators, thank you for your attendance. Thank you for all that you do. We appreciate you. Have a good evening. Okay. You're welcome.
See you.
All right.
Have a good week.
See you. Okay, we have our first hearing of citizens designated for agenda topics only. If you'd like to speak, sign in, come to the microphone, state your name and address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Keep in mind that the board does not typically respond to public comment, but rather takes the hearing into consideration for future governance. Also realize that all comments and meetings are now recorded. I know we already had some discussion. Anyone like to speak on agenda topics? Okay. Let's move into the discussion review of potential motions for approval for the March voting meeting, starting with business and finance. Ms. Lubert.
Oh, sorry. A motion for approval of 3 capital improvement projects. These were invoices that were received. One is dated 2022, and 2 of them were dated early, like July and August of 2024. Total dollar amount is $10,781.25 for all 3. These were not invoiced earlier. They just kind of, I got an email saying they hadn't been paid. I checked the emails and I had never received them, so she sent me the invoices and this is what you see.
Questions on these items? Okay, let's move into agreements, contracts, resolutions. First item is a revised contract with Recupero. Now that we have turf, we had to revise those contracts because they don't have to work on the turf surfaces any longer. We also have agreements with Wesley Schools for one of our students, and our annual agreement with Seneca Valley for cyber services for junior, senior high school students, which we talked about briefly already this evening. Next, we have our annual agreement, or our typical biannual agreement with our Meadows Psych Center for this year and next year. This is a center in case our students need temporary outplacement mental health services. Following that, we'll be asking your approval of the AIU Part B use of funds agreement for the 25-26 school year. You're used to seeing this now every year, but we utilize the AIU for our pass-through funds, which is approximately $1,500 a year and designated to pre-K programming. So we'll be asking for your approval of the funds agreement. We'll also be asking for your approval of the AIU's annual policies, procedures, and use of funds agreements, which are in compliance with Chapter 14 and regulatory requirements under IDEA Part B, amongst the others listed. This is also an annual agreement. We'll also be asking for your approval of the 25-26 Allegheny Intermediate Unit Program of Services budget. That's in the amount of $1,984,536. The Riverview School District's contribution to the Program of Services budget is estimated to be around $21,118. This is approximately $572 increase from last year. So this is fairly negligible for the upcoming year. The district's final withholding allocation will be based on the aid ratio and the weighted average daily membership. And so those withholding allocations will be determined by PDE sometime after July 1st. Finally, we have a 5-year waste removal contract with Shank Waste Service, Inc., which represents the most cost-efficient approach to waste removal over the next 5 years, and an approximate $5,000 to $6,000 savings per year to the district. So we want to thank Mr. McKenzie and Ms. Lubert for that, as we continue to strive for the most cost-effective solutions for district services. Any questions regarding the items listed there?
Just curious, for the Shank contract, are we getting any like benefit or cost efficiency because now the one in Verona are also using them, I believe? Does that have
We've
anything?
always used them. We still, I mean, we've used Shank and Vogel are the same company.
Okay.
So if you see a Shank truck, it's evidently they merged a few years ago. but we still have Shank vehicles that come on site.
Yeah.
We've had them for years. I just did a new quote. I think that over the last 5 years, what we're paying now was more expensive because I think because of COVID, because back when this contract was put in place, the world was upside down and we really didn't have a choice. But now that I reached out, you saw from the quotes, to 4 different companies, and some of them were pretty pricey.
Yeah.
But
I was just curious if there was any efficiency there, because I was like, oh, Oakmont has gone to them now too, and I think Verona as well. So I was just wondering, like,
yeah, we've always
if
been
there's
with them for the
any,
last 5 years.
I don't know, connection there, but
I mean, it's a,
it's a.
I'm not sure,
It's
but
a benefit
it's a
to
great,
them,
yeah.
because it's probably easier if they're doing Oakmont, Verona, and Riverview. It's like,
Exactly,
well,
yeah.
then that's.
I also reached out, I reached out to another company that I don't think's ever quoted the district. They do the bakery.
Okay.
And it happens to be the same company that I hired at my previous place.
Okay.
But it was a little pricey because I think he's coming down. I don't think he necessarily goes to the bakery as often as we would need pickups.
Yeah.
So that's where the cost savings wasn't necessarily seen.
Okay. I was just curious because it might be less expensive for them if they're already coming here, you know?
Yeah.
That's all, so.
We're gonna get a nice cost savings over the next 5 years, so it's a good testament for the district trying to get the most competitive prices, whether it's curriculum, whether it's trash services or Recupero, always looking to save the most amount of taxpayer dollars that we can. So we're very judicious about that. Okay, any other questions there? Board governance, we have a whole lot of second reading policies. Remember, this is a result of the collaborative effort between our policy committee and administration. So we've gotten to a lot of policies, there's more to come. Our next policy committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 9th at 1 p.m. where we're going to go through a number of additional policies. Any additional comments, concerns, changes, edits regarding these second reading policies as listed? I'm not going to read them all, there's like 5 million of them. There's a lot. Some of them are third and final readings. The 100 and 200 series will have the third and final reading, which is great. We can sort of put those in the rear view and keep working through the series. Okay? It's exciting. Personnel, we'll be asking your approval of 2 retirements, 1 FMLA request, unpaid sick days as per board policy, and we have letters of interest for your consideration, which are all previously approved district positions and people. Finally, we have our usual precision custodial subs. Any questions regarding those items? Fairly typical. Okay. No student life. Education, we have 2 items for your consideration in education. First is, we're going to be asking your approval of our annual participation in the academic games in Washington, D.C. This is under the direction of Dr. McNally. Next item is the official approval of our state mandated comprehensive plan, Chapter 16 gifted education plan, Chapter 19 induction plan, Act 48 professional development plan, and the Chapter 12 student services assurances. These have been a result of months and months and months of focus groups, exploration, sessions, interviews, surveys, analyses, and we've been meticulously followed all state required mandates and procedures regarding the work. We will have satisfied the required public inspection guidelines by next week's voting meeting and will need to be approved by the board next week as per state mandate. I've also included I sent you a draft copy of like the reader-friendly, forward-facing strategic plan. That's a draft, we're still working on it. But overall, we're really happy to be approaching the end of a really long and comprehensive process. I can't tell you how many hours we've put into this. But any questions, comments, discussion regarding those plans, regarding Dr. McNally's trip to DC?
You say comprehensive plan, same as strategic plan.
So the comprehensive
Or
plan is
part of one of
like
the
a
other.
45-page document.
Oh, okay.
The reader-friendly strategic plan is our attempt to sort of like
Oh, okay, got it.
boil that down to a reader-friendly version with some goals and things for, that's
Okay.
easy
So
for.
that's part of that larger.
It
okay,
is
got
it is an extension of that, rather than having the public sort of sweat through 45
Or
pages.
just
It's a
ignore it.
five-page overview. It's like Justin Bencherry's 2-page overview of a
Much bigger thing.
90-page document.
90-page audit, you
Got
know.
it.
So
Okay.
we're getting some good pictures and trying to, that's something we're working with the AIU so we can represent the school district really well in that forward-facing plan, and then, you know, set the path forward. So we're excited to put like the planning process behind and just start checking the boxes off and moving forward with the new strategic plan. So any parent, I know 1 million parents have participated in this, strategic plan surveys, focus groups, like, thank you for participating, giving input. Thank you to everyone at home who watches this. We really appreciate it. So, and staff as well. So many staff members involved. So it's been a good process. But like I said, happy to be putting it in the rear view and moving forward here. Okay. Last but not least, we'll be asking your approval of the February 3rd and 10th study session and voting meeting minutes, respectively. Any edits, submissions, or additions at this time for those minutes? Okay. We now move into the second hearing of citizens, which is designated for all school-related topics. If you'd like to speak, sign in, come up to the microphone, state your name and address, keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Keep in mind that the board does not typically respond to public comment, but rather takes the hearing into consideration for future governance. Also, please realize that all comments and meetings are recorded. Anyone for the second
Do I
hearing?
have to stand up and go up there?
Just,
No.
yeah, you gotta state your name, your
Well,
address,
yeah.
you know.
Sylvia
Get close to
Sullivan.
this little mini.
Stand up, do
Yeah.
a cartwheel.
Yeah.
139 Oak Meadow Drive. I just want to say, the kids love the turf. They love it.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids are, I mean, every day after school, there's kids out there now. They're just, thank you. Yeah, I mean, they came home so excited. So,
I'm happy
it's
about
the
that.
best. I can't wait for Werner to get it too, and I'm really glad that we did it.
So that turf was one of the most, I don't know, it was up there for one of the most rewarding moments to just like see them come out for the first time. Werner was today, and just.
They're done for today?
Yeah, they
Okay.
their first day was today. The excitement and the kids running out there for the first time is just like so rewarding. Just like the fitness centers, like when you see kids utilizing things that you're putting into place, and they're going to get a lot of use out of them. You see it like come to fruition. You see it in front of your eyes. It is so satisfying. It was so satisfying. I agree with you. It's one of the most satisfying things.
It was a good
Yeah,
use
it's
of
really
money,
good.
and that I think it'll just last forever.
I appreciate you
Yeah,
saying
it's
that.
really-
I feel the same.
The
way.
kids love it.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming to the science fair.
Of course, yeah. It's a tradition, so I'm never gonna miss it.
I know, now I'm just gonna force you to go every time.
No, I enjoy going. It's a real bright spot.
Oh, see, they're already planning for next year.
Yeah, it's a real bright spot for me.
It was
I
fun,
won't
yeah.
miss it, so
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
I thought of something. Paul and Thomas said. Thank you again for going through the whole process of updating the workout room, the weight, the equipment. It is above and beyond anything. I mean, I've been through it a few different times, but I took my college-age son, who just graduated 2 years ago, through it, and he was blown away. And he goes to a very nice college, and he said this locker room it's college level, like it is.
Yeah.
And I said, and we have a professional trainer who's on staff, and I know our 7th and 8th graders are using it as often as they fit in that building, and sometimes there's a line, and just thank you, that was huge. I meant to mention earlier, was there ever a thought of, in any of the additions or going out the back, that cement slab, that's not feasible per se,
Because of the river.
There's the water.
It's considered a floodplain.
Floodplain, okay.
Yep.
There's set-offs. It also covers what most people would consider a marquee part of the Riverview. Like all of that, all of those back windows would
Okay.
be covered, but it's more of an issue of the setbacks.
Got
Two
it.
spots after like the analysis are like out by the bakery or
Sure.
in the front. Those are the only two places.
Yeah, but it works.
Where you could
Yeah.
to put two floors and really utilize, like
Yeah.
add a bunch of
Yeah.
really great things.
Well, I'm
So,
excited to see how we can move
we'll
forward.
continue to move down the path. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Okay.
that.
Thank
And
you.
for one of the suggestions, when we finally do get to look at the cafeteria, one of the suggestions was to put garage doors.
Open it up.
And
Oh,
open
that'd
it
be
up
cool.
Oh,
and
that'd be
seating,
cool.
like solid
Yeah,
seating.
we're looking at-
And that's like one of the zhuzhy kind of things
Sure.
we're looking at that would be,
Yeah.
they have to put the
Sure.
garage doors in instead of regular doors because of the staffing, students, overseeing the students.
Wow.
Being able to see where they are.
We
That's
are,
nice,
yeah,
'cause
we're
that's
looking
kinda
at
how we have-
utilizing the outside space.
Yeah, we're
for
looking
kids,
at-
yeah,
Awesome.
much more. You
Tend
could
to
sit,
like
eat
outdoor
outside
seating
like
by
a
the
day like
cafeteria.
today.
yeah, no.
Which we've had, I mean, that was a relatively new thing, the outdoor
Yeah.
seating
Oh,
by
you
the
mean the one
playground.
by-
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so
I love
was-
that.
That was a nice thing to have
We're looking
there.
at a similar thing
Yeah,
for
to have that for
the
the high school.
kitchen renovations, to utilize all that outdoor
That'd be really
space,
cool.
especially on a day like today where so
Yeah, you
wanna
could
eat
open that up,
outside.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to finally state that we did have an executive session prior to tonight's meeting, Monday, March 10th at 6 p.m. to discuss RESPA contract negotiation, AIU media contract and services, personnel, legal matters, and receiving information that's specific enough. Okay. Motion in Stephanie's absence. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you for attending. Hey, parents, thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate it. We're glad you came.
Seriously.
Have a great week. Thank you, board. Thank you.
Yeah.